Welcome to the absolute disaster behind me, but it's a disaster with a point.
Gold prospecting has introduced me to multiple different machines that do different things and have complicated bits of engineering in them, like this jaw crusher, like this motorized impact mill, and like this angle grinder crusher here. They all have moving bits and pieces, filters, starters. I mean, hell, that thing runs off an angle grinder.
Gold prospecting seems to be one of the industries that introduces people who have a lot of fundamental skills with tools and machinery like that. And a lot of that is taken for granted. It's what's called assumed knowledge. Now, I learned about assumed knowledge in archery. When I was coaching archery, you would expect people to understand the fundamental movement patterns that they had to get right. And what I'm talking about is not the overall arching picture. It's just like you would expect someone to know that they were standing up straight. That just wasn't the case. So many of my coaching sessions involved trying to get someone just to stand up correctly. Just stand straight, but it's a really hard thing to do because I had assumed that people would know how to do that correctly.
So when it comes to things like angle grinders and rock crushers and things with bolts and moving parts and filters and switches and all sorts of stuff, there's a lot of assumed knowledge from my audience of people who have worked around these bits and pieces for their entire lives. And they know how these things work and they understand all the numbers and the bits and pieces that go on them and how they operate.
But then along comes a person like myself who never really had the opportunity to be introduced to these things when he was a kid, when he was a teenager, when he was a young adult. I never played around with this stuff. I never had the chance. I never had anyone showing me how to do it.
I legitimately had no idea how to turn this bloody thing on until a couple of days ago. I didn't know that that was a safety switch that had to go forward before that would click.
And there's going to be a lot of people out there who have tools and know how to use these things thinking, well, that's pretty dumb. This guy doesn't even know how to use an angle grinder. Well, yeah, because no one ever showed me.
A couple of days ago, when we picked up this angle grinder powered rock crusher, I had a lot to learn. And the creators of this, Dan and Tim from Minelab Gold and Stumpy Picks, drove all the way up to the northeast and they showed me how that thing worked. And then I had a few teething issues where I had to wrap my head around some of the basics of utilizing these tools and pulling that apart and making sure I understood how it works so I could fix it, so I could make sure that when I ran it on a video or ran it for my ore crushers, that it would function correctly. They did something that is so incredibly important for young men today. They showed me how to use these things. They took the time and effort to show me how to pull this entire thing apart, how all the bearings worked, how to tighten your angle grinder onto this correctly, how the weight of this shaft is important, how the power of a particular angle grinder will have relevance on how that operates.
They took the time in a non-judgmental way to sit down and run through the entire thing with me. And they were patient and they were kind and they were willing to share that knowledge with someone who didn't know what he was doing. I'm going to be the first to admit, I don't know what I'm doing with half these sort of power tools. I'm learning this stuff. I'm proactively trying to learn more of it.
Finding someone to show you how to service a lawnmower engine, for example.
When you're a young man and perhaps don't have that person in your life, whether that be your dad, your grandfather, whoever it might be, to show you those sort of things, is incredibly important. And I wish more men would do that. I wish more men would take the opportunity to grab someone who's obviously struggling and might be self-conscious about not being able to do something like that and show them how to do it. YouTube's been great. YouTube for me has taught me lots of stuff. I learned how to service and fix firearms through YouTube. I learned how to service my own car through YouTube. I learned how to rebuild my car through YouTube. I learned how to do a heap of stuff from YouTube. But it's not the same as having someone there who shows you the really basic assumed knowledge parts of working with tools and equipment like this. So I say all this for one simple reason. Next time you run up against someone who doesn't know how to utilize their tools properly, who doesn't maybe understand the easiest way to make something work, instead of making fun of them, instead of making them feel like crap, show them how to do it. If you show them how to do it, we're going to have a generation of young men out there who are now going to be more independent and more self-sufficient in this world.